Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in northeast Nebraska, where a Norfolk man likely headed to prison for his role in a fire at a transitional living home. 30-year-old Austin Ladd pleaded guilty to felony arson in Madison County District Court on Friday. He was arrested in August after this fire at the house in Norfolk. Authorities say Ladd was seen and heard on camera threatening to burn the building down in the days leading up to the fire, and a propane torch had been found at the scene once the fire was extinguished. Ladd faces up to 4 years in prison when he's sentenced in December. But his legal troubles don't stop there. He's already serving a 6-month jail term for a criminal mischief conviction related to an incident in July. He also has a pending shoplifting case in Madison County set for a hearing next month. Well, it all comes down to this, the final full day of campaigning in this presidential election. Vice President Kamala Harris finishing a barnstorming of battleground states with stops in critical Pennsylvania, and former President Donald Trump also hitting the battlegrounds, finishing his campaigning in toss-up Michigan. Brian Abel is in Washington with the latest on the election's final moments.
The presidential campaign trail over the final weekend, running straight through the battleground states. Vice President Kamala Harris with multiple stops in Wisconsin Friday, Georgia and North Carolina Saturday, and Michigan Sunday, making closing arguments of her truncated campaign, saying she wants to remind people the stakes of the election.
We know who Donald Trump is. Now, this is not someone who is thinking about how to make your life better.
The vice president Saturday also appearing on SNL.
Because what do we always say? Keep Kamala and carry on a lot.
The close of former President Trump's third presidential run, also pushing into multiple battleground states. He too was in Wisconsin Friday after Michigan, then Virginia Saturday, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina Sunday.
I will bring back the American dream, and we'll bring it back stronger than ever before.
As they sprint to the finish, polls show a race too close to call. Longtime Michigan Representative Debbie Dingell on just how close she believes this race is.
Been through enough elections that I can tell you I have never seen a tighter election.
At the White House, Brian Abel reporting.
State elections officials, meanwhile, predicting a heavy turnout in the Cornhusker state on Tuesday. Secretary of State Bob Evnen said Monday that he's estimating a 72% voter turnout this year. He's basing that estimate on trends in recent general elections and accounting for heavy early voting numbers, with over 332,000 Nebraskans already casting their ballots. About 260,000 of those were voters by mail. The 72% number would be among Nebraska's best, but shy of the record 74% turnout seen in 2020. Nebraska voters will be deciding several key issues when they head to the polls Tuesday. Our team of reporters at News Channel Nebraska has been breaking down each of the ballot measures and simplifying the language to help you make an informed vote. Our Ryan Valenta now breaks down Initiative 439 regarding abortion rights.
One of the most tightly contested issues in the state during this election is abortion rights. 2 abortion-related measures stand before Nebraska voters, but for this story, we dive deeper into Initiative 439 that aims to strike down the state's current 12-week abortion ban and replace it to give women a right to abortion up until fetal viability. Now, unless you're a fetal medicine expert, the question before many is, what is fetal viability? When does a fetus become viable?
This is a great question. So fetal viability can be a moving target. In general, when we're talking about fetal viability, this is typically given a gestational age limit.
According to Nebraska State Statute 28-326, viability means the stage of human development when the unborn child is potentially able to live more than merely momentarily outside the womb of the mother by natural or artificial means. A vote for Initiative 439 would enact a right to abortion up to fetal viability, and a vote against would keep Nebraska's current 12-week abortion ban intact. Dr. Emily Patel is a maternal fetal medicine specialist in Omaha who says that window for most unborn fetuses is around the 22 to 24-week range of gestation, but it depends on the baby's growth for each case.
There are so many other factors that play into that require us to use our medical knowledge, and background in conjunction with our neonatology colleagues to counsel patients about if in their particular situation, if they have a fetus that is actually viable.
This means the separation between the state's current abortion ban and average age of fetal viability is roughly 10 to 12 weeks apart. In normal practice, Dr. Patel says 2 tests are performed on fetuses to detect anomalies or complications during pregnancies. One occurs near Nebraska's current abortion deadline and the other well after it.
We will routinely do what we call an anatomy ultrasound, where we look at the fetus head to toe and diagnose any fetal anomalies. Also can diagnose fetal genetic conditions. That typically happens around about 20 weeks. We also have genetic testing that's available that's often done around about 11 to 12 weeks, and that testing takes about a week to come back.
The main supporting group for this measure is Lincoln-based Protect Our Rights, who wants to give women their own choice of abortion and to help prevent some women from being forced to carry non-viable pregnancies to term after the current 12-week cutoff. There are multiple opposing groups who say the definition of fetal viability is too vague, and the new fetal viability law would allow some abortions at later than 24 weeks. The final thing to know is that Initiative 439 is competing with Initiative 434 to keep the 12-week abortion ban in place, so since there's 2 separate measures, both of them could theoretically pass. If that happens, Nebraska Secretary of State Bob Evnen says that whichever measure receives more votes than the other, that measure will trump the other and become law.
For other deeper dives into Nebraska's ballot initiatives, visit our NCN website. On behalf of News Channel Nebraska, I'm Ryan Valenta.
Leaders with the Nebraska bioeconomy are addressing the requirements for producers to participate in a new sustainable aviation fuel operation. That's good news for farmers. It means they don't need to be getting the SAF tax credit to get a contract with DG Fuel, so producers won't need to change their current practices in order to explore the new market for their crop. DG Fuels announced back in August plans to open a plant in Phelps County that would produce almost 200 million gallons of SAF annually and potentially provide 600 new jobs.
Nebraska bioeconomy's priority is to grow our family farms and drive additional revenue streams to those farms. So coming to the market first, saying you can only participate if you do these 3 practices was an absolute conflict to our initiative.
Officials say they expect corn stover contracts with DG Fuels to be shared with area farmers this month. The preliminary economic impact studies have said the DG Fuels plant could add $100 million worth of farm revenue annually from its corn stover contracts. Multiple communities in Nebraska getting money from the Department of Economic Development. The $10 million from the DED going to 11 recipients through their Rural Community Recovery Program. The Nebraska legislature authorized the one-time program last year. The money comes from the state's ARPA funds. The bulk of the projects are for park expansions, including $1.5 million to McCook and $1.37 million to Wayne. North Platte and Hastings are getting affordable housing grants, while the village of Alma is getting money to renovate their public auditorium. Next year, U.S. workers will be allowed to save a little more pre-tax earnings in their 401k retirement funds. On Friday, the Internal Revenue Service announced the new contribution limit for next year will be $23,500. That's up $500 from this year. For those 50 and older, the IRS didn't adjust the limit on catch-up contributions. Those are still $7,500. The exception is for people aged 60 to 63 who can deposit an additional $11,250 or 150% of the general catch-up provision. Whatever the limit, most people don't get there. In 2023, only about 14% maxed out their contributions. And finally, now that Halloween is over, many have begun the countdown to the holiday season. And a northeast Nebraska town is building a new feature that will give residents a new way to get into the spirit. Hanky Hazelton has more.
The city of Norfolk has come a long way with many improvements to not only better the city itself for years to come, but also the residents and future guests that pass through on a daily basis. Their newest development, an ice rink in Johnson Park.
You can come outside and actually skate. It's a refrigerated ice rink. We've tried non-refrigerated in the past, but you know, as you have your warm days in the winter, it doesn't really work out very well. So we have guaranteed ice throughout the winter, and people can come out and enjoy the outdoors.
With the unusual warm weather this time of year, and as Jay said, the rink is refrigerated. But how exactly does that work?
We do have chillers, so it is chilled from underneath. So as long as it is 47 degrees or colder, then we will be able to have the rink open.
One would assume hanky. Of course, skating will be done here, but what else exactly could be done here along with other forms of skating?
We have a warming house on the backside. We plan to offer birthday party packages. You'll be able to rent it. Plan on offering hockey through the City of North Fork Parks and Recreation Department. We're going to offer instructional hockey, a learn to skate program, figure skating, which will be an open figure skating time that we plan to offer for people just to come and learn.
If the weather cooperates, PJ and Nathan said that we can probably see people out here as early as Thanksgiving weekend, but if it continues to stay warm like it has been, we can probably anticipate for people to be out here 1, if not 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. In North Fork, Hanky Hazelton, News Channel, Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X. Like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.